Привет, друзья! Сегодня будем немножко общаться с Тимом. Вот и Тим. Hey, Tim.
Hello, Alec. How are
Good
you?
to see you. I'm good. How are you?
Mighty fine, mighty fine. Your day's almost complete. Have you eaten supper yet?
Not yet. We've gotten into a habit of eating late supper.
Okay. I
Because,
usually eat by 6 or 6:30 our time. You remember
Right.
when you were here?
Huh?
You remember when you were here with us for
Yeah.
a while?
Yes, I remember the background very well.
Yeah, so I'm on the back porch. We like to be out there.
Yeah. So,
I've got some peanut butter for you. You ready?
yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about, well, you and your experience today.
All right.
Because I guess it's not often that we stop and listen to the perspective of people who have a lot more experience than we do.
You're trying to say that I'm old. It's okay.
No, I'm not. But well, so yeah. I guess let's see. You are. Hold on, I can do them. You're 70.
78 in November.
78. That is awesome. You're in very good shape.
Well, Sheila takes good care of me, so you know.
That's true.
And my children were not too rough on me when I was raising them, so you know. I got the gray hair, but
That's
I see that my daughter is looking in. Hi, Tracy.
Hey, Tracy. Good to see you. So yeah, 78 years old. That is awesome. And so you've seen a lot of different eras, so to speak, come and go. And some things, I think, here's what I think. I think some of the things that seem a big deal to us may not seem like a big deal to you because you've seen the same thing just in a different shape or form. And so you're like, well, we had this, everybody got crazy about that, and everybody thought this was the end or the beginning or the next big thing. And then now nobody even remembers that. So I guess one of the things that that comes with the perspective that you have is just taking things, I guess, at their value, seeing the value, the actual value of things, or seeing the value of things better than we do anyway.
Well, it is a different perspective, that's for sure. You know, in earlier conversations, you and I have talked about that I was a teenager during the 1950s here in the United States. And, you know, case in point, the current coronavirus that's, you know, around the world affecting you guys just like it affects us, or in similar ways. But I was a child before polio vaccine. And I can remember the tension and in the community. I grew up in a small town in West Tennessee, southern, and there was a lot of tension. And of course, I was too young to appreciate everything about that. But I can remember being taken down to our health department and giving a shot of something that they thought might help, you know. And so we went through all of that. And as you say, there have been things that I've been able to see come and go and realize that the impact at that moment was terrible, you know, not to be downplayed at all, but then that citizens, society, business, culture, you know, everything is so resilient and able to rebound. And so when you go into the next big thing, you have the perspective of knowing well, we've been through things like this and we'll be okay.
Right. That's kind of the thing that I was talking about. But over your lifetime, you've had how many jobs? What careers have you had?
Well, for jobs that count, you know, when I was a child, when I was a little guy, a child, not a baby, but, you know, young teenager, 14, I worked in a grocery store, and just the usual things that you would do in a grocery store, stocking shelves and, you know, bagging groceries and all of that. So that would have been my childhood job. And then later I got on with an airline and did more than, 30 plus years with an airline, finishing up in information technologies. And within Delta, within the airline, I had more than one assignment, so there was a lot of variety there. And then after retiring from Delta, I was on staff at church as administrator for 15 years and have been retired from that for about 7 or 8 years, been retired from that.
And now your job is?
Well, I'm still an elder at church, so, you know, that involves some time there. And then I've been I live in a small town here in Georgia, about 13,000 population. And I've been on the city council as an elected official I was on that for like 13 years. And most recently was sworn in as mayor of our little town. So, you know, that's a new exposure, a new experience.
Right. So as a mayor, like what do you do? What do you not do?
So we try not to say anything that is obviously going to get us into the newspaper, you know.
Right.
We try to guard our responses to trick questions by being understanding that people hold very strong views on both sides of the spectrum. So you answer the questions and you deal with the issues, but you deal with it with some understanding that not everybody is going to agree with you.
Right. That's a good answer. This answer would not get you in trouble with any with any political side. Right.
Well, and that's what you try. And the thing is, and I think probably for young people, it's important to realize soon that you don't know everything. Okay.
Well, I mean, I do, but.
Well, you know, you're still young enough to know everything. But my roommate and I, when we were freshmen at university, would sit in our room at night and answer the world's problems. You know, we had answers to everybody's. You know, why don't they just do this? And if they would, and so as you grow older, you begin to get a different perspective.
Right.
When you're reading social media, it's so predictable. It's so predictable that it's almost comical when you start seeing the different opinions rise up in the comments. You know, people immediately go to their fort, close the door, start firing cannons at everybody else. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Right. That's true. So you've been, so what are some of the major changes that you've seen just in the world and the way, you know, we do things and the way everything happens and technologically, you know, in matters of society, stuff like that, culturally?
Okay. So when I was 12, 13 years old, back in West Tennessee, I had a pen pal.
Right.
That means that we wrote letters to each other. He was in Dusseldorf, Germany. So he wrote letters to me in German. I would take it to a local lady who could translate that for me. Then I would write him a letter back in English, and he would have to get he probably spoke English. You know, I mean, Americans are so slow to realize they actually need to speak more than one language.
That's what your son-in-law said.
Yeah. Oh man. You know, that's what you say. The joke is a joke on ourselves that someone who speaks many languages is polylingual. Someone who speaks two is bilingual. Someone who speaks one is an American.
Right.
But anyway, so back when we were writing letters back and forth, imagine how long that took. And even the envelope I put it in was a very special envelope. You know, it was an international airmail envelope. You know, it even had a mystique about it.
Right.
And then you had to wait 3 or 4 weeks, you know, to get an answer back. And then you had to go get it translated, or I did. And so there was just that. And here we are, Mr. Pushkov was sitting, chatting real time, you know, 11 time zones different from each other. So yeah, that makes it all different. Also, I think the ease of travel. I've been to Russia many times, and I guess the longest in one stretch I was ever there was maybe about 5 weeks. So by no means an expert, but I have been exposed to, you know, people like your family and your circle of friends through church and you know, the English school. So I think a lot of us have had that opportunity. Again, when I was a child traveling internationally, nah, you know, no.
Right.
If I went to the neighboring town, which was 17 miles away, that was a road trip. You know, that was a big deal. You got ready for it. And so I think that the international travel has made people realize that we're all just people. You know, we really do think alike. We have the same, you know, we have the same hierarchy of needs, regardless of where we live. So, you know, that's been very instructive to me.
Right. So sometimes we hear this opinion, I guess, that like this technological advance made things maybe less valuable, or did make things less valuable, but makes us value things less, or value communication less. Like when you wrote an actual letter on paper, and then you waited for that answer, and you know, you appreciated it, you valued it, and now maybe, as you know, there's this opinion that maybe now we don't value human interaction so much. What do you feel about that?
That's true, because it is so easy. You almost feel like it's a throwaway situation, you know, that it's almost disposable. When I was growing up, you saved things because you might use them later, you know, and you fixed things, you know. If your I don't know, if your television broke, you didn't toss it out and go get another, you know. We didn't live in the you know, BIC lighters, big cigarette lighters.
Right. Yeah.
Kind of became a symbol for that throwaway society, because you use your Bic lighter, it runs out of butane, you throw it away, you get another 50-cent lighter and use it. So yeah, that has been a huge sea change in the way consumers look at things. I'm still old school. My car is 18 years old, you know, and I have a good mechanic, and he keeps it running, and I have no thoughts of trading it off. It has about 180,000 miles on it. Rob Brown is the paradigm for that. His old van has almost, I think he's shooting for 400,000. It's getting there, you know, and so
it is. I can tell his van has that mileage on it. I can't tell your car has its mileage on it. So, which,
well,
you know, not to say that he is not taking good care of his van. I'm just saying, you know.
Well, the boys treated him to the detailing the other day. A couple of weeks ago, they detailed his van, and it looked a lot better. So it still has potential to look really good.
Right.
But so
he calls
there's
it
that.
he calls it power of many options.
In my lifetime, there has been that. And of course, in my lifetime, I mentioned travel. You know, I stood at the airport and watched DC-3s take off, and they were a big deal. And
what's
I remember,
a DC-3?
Yeah, it's a C-47 DC-3 twin-engine tail dragger. It was one of the first commercial airliners. By the way, my favorite plane is the Antonov AN-2, the biplane.
Right.
I love that airplane. You know, it'll pick up anything you can put in it and take off.
Right.
So
you saw the first commercial airliners in America take off?
Well, no, I don't go quite that far back. We did have commercial airlines flying when I was, you know, born. Commercial airlines would have started back in the, I don't know, 1910, somewhere along in there, 1820, I don't know.
Right. I just don't know when. I'll be honest with you. I'm not sure when commercial flying started, so that's why I'm, you know.
Yeah. Well, and you know, of course, now that the Russians invented airplanes and invented flying. The Wright brothers, you know, they're pretenders. So I'm kidding you.
I kind of knew that in my heart, and you're just, you know.
I just confirmed that for you.
Confirming what I already felt. Like we are the beginning of everything, and
everything. And Americans think we are also, you know. So.
Right.
But you and I have joked about that before. You know, when we were, I don't know, watching some TV series and the Russians would be portrayed a certain way, and you go like, "Oh yeah, of course," you know.
Just blame it on us. We're used to it, right? Yeah.
It's a stereotype. So let me speak to that.
Yeah.
So when I started coming to Russia in 1994, that was in Barnaul, and it was quite an education. It was quite an education because I was raised in the duck and cover generation. Cold War.
Duck and cover, what is that? Because I'm not sure that everybody, yeah.
I know. So when we were in school, we were told that the Russians were coming. The Russians are coming, you know. So
yeah, they even made a movie about that.
Exactly, except they turned out to be good guys. You know, in that movie, they were very nice, good guys. That submarine that landed in the Canadian town or whatever, very nice, very well portrayed. But so that was the propaganda we were fed. And our defense, which is hilarious, was, okay, if they drop the bomb, we are to get under our desks. Okay, that's going to be effective, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so we ducked and covered, you know, that was it.
Right.
That was the total civil defense move right there. But anyway, that's the way I was raised. So when I started coming in 1994, that's when, you know, and all the stereotypes are just erased. They're done away. And so I won't make any political statements, but the people are just people, you know, right. They're good people. They're good people. And I don't know how America is portrayed and stereotyped in other countries, but we're mostly not that way. You know, however we're being portrayed, we're mostly not that way.
Right, that's true.
But we read our own news between Fox, CNN, you know, the extremes of reporting. There is no objective reporting anymore. So we just look at it and laugh and go like, I really don't know anybody that's like that, you know, but the media has fun with it.
Right. So what stereotypes did you have, and what did you kind of expect to see, and what did you see in 1994? And as time went by, you also saw some changes in this here culture.
So I don't know, going in, I guess going in, and our first exposure would have been in Moscow in 1994 on our way to Barnaul, to Siberia. Oh, by the way, our stereotype of Siberia, please, you know, it's
right.
There's always 10 feet of snow. There's nothing but gulags and you know, zero food, and it just went on and on and on, you know. So, you know, coming through Moscow, there was a little bit of the stereotype that I thought I saw. The Muscovites did not smile very much. And I kind of took it as a challenge, and people in our party were laughing at me, but I would try to get them to smile.
Right.
You know, so I can remember being at the McDonald's in Moscow, and I handed the young man a ruble note, I don't know, of some size, more than enough to cover my meal. And he picked it up and held it to a light and looked through it, looked at it, you know. And I kind of laughed. And so he handed me back my change, and I took one of the paper notes and the change and looked at him and held it up to the light. And he laughed, he smiled, you know, so I got him to smile. So just different things like that. And I realized that, of course, they have a sense of humor. You know, of course, Russians have a sense of humor, but they're going to laugh at things different from what I laugh at. And, you know, just like anybody else, you don't know their situation. You don't know how much pressure they're under. Maybe that was that young man's third job. I don't know, you know, so you just have to take that in consideration. But anyway, then getting on to Barnaul and settling in there we were there about a month, and really got to know some people as well as you can in a month. And I was blown away by their hospitality. You know, I saw grandmothers, babushkas, put a spread on their table in their living room that I know that they did not have the money to do that. But they were so hospitable, and they wanted us to enjoy the jams that they had put up, and the mushrooms they had gathered, and, you know, the pelmeni, and, you know, on and on. And so, you know, that made an impression to see another culture as being fully, I guess, human, you know, just fully like you. So that was an education. And then all the years we continued to go back to Russia, various parts of Russia, and mostly in Siberia. And that was just reinforced over and over, you know, the goodness of people.
Right. So what did you learn any Russian while you were here?
Well, when, I forget what year we were there. I think Benjamin was little, so that would have been about 21 years ago. We were back in Barnaul, and Adele Strazinko, who is like a 3 times PhD, and, you know, they were after her to be mayor of Barnaul, and I think she refused them. She had good sense. But so I said, Adele, I know 40 Russian words, you know. And she just looked at me and she said, Tim, 40 words is not a language.
That's true.
And I said, I know, Adele, but I can go to the market and buy cheese. So I won't starve.
That is something. That is something.
But I was proud of my 40 words.
Well, yeah, I mean, something that gets you like maybe through the city and in the store. Of course, now you don't even have to say anything when you go to the store.
Yeah, just
pick it up.
about. I don't know if you'll remember, but you took us to that memorial park above the Tom River there in Tomsk. And we were walking around, the kids were with us. Sheila was there, of course. And a Russian gentleman, maybe about my age or maybe a tiny bit younger. Anyway, he engaged me in conversation totally in Russian. And I have no Russian, you know, other than da, and nodding my head and going like, you know, waving my hands like, oi, you know. And he and I had about a 20-minute conversation, you know, that he seemed to enjoy.
Right. You were a very good listener.
And you came up to me later and go like, that was great. You know, you really, you know, you affirmed that guy and you really, you know, and I said, what was he saying? You know, but it seemed, I don't know, it almost, I think it may have had political overtones. So I was being careful, but yeah. So there is language and then there is understanding. So I don't have to understand your language to understand you.
Right.
If I will try. You know, if I will blow away the stereotypes and see you as an individual, I don't need language as much. Now, your language school kids need to disregard that advice and learn English, you know, because it will be good for you in business and so forth.
Right. Right. So, what do you see? What differences do you see between American culture and Russian culture? Yeah, American society, Russian society.
You know, less and less difference. I guess part of it would just be regional. I've never grown up with it's small things. I've never grown up with public transit, and we have that in some American cities, of course, Boston, New York. You know, we have it, but I did not grow up with it, so I'm not dependent on it. And it seems like in the Russian cities of a certain size, that public transit is very important, very big deal. So, you know, in Russia, I've traveled in Novosibirsk on their subway, and you know, I've ridden marshutkas and trolleys, and you know, I never could understand the difference between a trolley and a bus and a marshutka. Well, I know what a marshutka is, but so dependent on public transportation, but that's a regional city kind of a thing. That's not a major difference in our cultures. I think that, and this is a broad statement. I think that Russians may be more practical, more pragmatic than many Americans. I think that you may appreciate the amenities that may be harder to come by than we are. Not to say, I mean, we have, you know, part of our culture is, you know, we have the full spectrum from poverty to ultra rich. We have that too, but it seems like our middle class maybe is bigger. I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're still trying to define our middle class. It's either very small to non-existent, or it is not as middle as, you know, as we want to be, I guess.
I've been impressed with the, I guess, young Russians. I don't know how old they are now, 20-something, 30-something, 40-something. But anyway, the entrepreneurs of Russia, I mean, it's pretty amazing how they will explore all possibilities, you know, to have a career, to make a living. So, you know, that's pretty impressive. Right.
So what do you see, like the different, what do you see? You've complimented us, which is great. What do you see in the States? Like what is different in American behavior than in Russian? What is good about that? What is some of the things that you wish we learned to do or to see?
Again, that's a toughie. The county that I live in here in Georgia, Gwinnett County, is the most diverse county pretty much in the nation by some measures. And it's said that Gwinnett County is where the United States will be in 30 years. We're already there when it comes to diversity. So we have everything you can imagine in the way of ethnicities and first generation, you know, where the culture is still very strong. religious faiths of all types. And so I'm not sure that is true in Russia. We may be more diverse. I don't know. You know, I haven't really studied that demographic in Russia as a whole. I know that some cities in Russia are very diverse, especially further down toward Altai maybe, or, you know, something like that. So we have that. We have the multicultural thing going for us, and I think that's good. You know, we learn to be more tolerant. And now whether those cultures are moving towards center, maybe we'll become homogenized at some point, but I don't see it happening very soon. You know, their children and their children, you know, by the time you get to the third generation, it might be true that we are some different version of American. You know, it will look different than it looks now.
Right. Well, you also wanted to, we kind of talked about the differences in American language and the dialects, and we kind of discussed how I think we don't have, I mean, we have some differences. We have a few words here and there. We kind of laugh about people from St. Petersburg and some of the words that they say that sound kind of more cultured, more high, but
Chavo?
they huh?
Chavo?
Yeah, like что instead of что, and things like that. And which some of these words actually sound funny to us.
I know.
But so what do you see? What differences do you see in the language in the United States?
Again, we still have our regional accents. Thank goodness. I like them. You know, you can spot a Southerner or someone who was raised in the South, and there's a difference between the Louisiana accent, you know, the Cajun patois. There's a difference between Cajun Southern and, you know, Alabama Southern, and, you know, there are differences. And as I said, I was raised in small town West Tennessee, and did not realize, because I was immersed in it, that I was speaking, you know, that dialect. And you know, we call it redneck, which is kind of a it depends, you know. You can call a redneck and he'll laugh and go like, I sure am, you know. So it's not always a mean thing to say. So I can fall back into that. And so something we would say would be, how's your mama them?
Right.
Do you know what how's your mama them?
Wow, like, and the rest
of
of
your mother and your other relatives?
Right, and the rest of your family, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and we run words together and we slur words. And then on the other hand, we can make 3 syllables out of a 1-syllable word. You know, some of our dialects, some of our accents are spoken very slowly. So, you know, we can drag a word out to where it's 3 syllables instead of 1.
Right.
So we're all across that. And you can always, our Northerners are speaking a very clipped, fast. They speak faster and kind of a clipped, they cut their words off. In Boston, you park the car. You park the car.
Right.
You park the car, you know. So, and we laugh at that, and they enjoy that too. Bostoners know they talk like that. They like it, you know. So I don't know if you have anything that obvious in the Russian language or not. You know, I know that your writer Solzhenitsyn, they wrote at such a level in Russian that it can hardly be translated and appreciated in English. You know, the meaning in Russian would be very hard for a non-Russian speaker to get.
Probably.
And
well,
maybe our author, someone like Faulkner, would be writing in the Southern dialect that would be so hard to translate into Russian that you would almost lose what he was illustrating. So there's that.
Yeah. Right.
But the bones of a language, and you teach this in your school, the bones of the language, the tools of a language are similar between languages. You know, you have to know the grammar, you have to know the tense, you have to in order to sound like you're not in kindergarten, you know, trying to speak their language. You know, you're not a 3-year-old learning, you're actually, you know, maybe a teenager learning.
Right, right. So how did this COVID and everything, I'm going to jump the topics here a little bit, but how did this whole situation affect you, and what is in place now, and how is it developing?
Well, starting the first week in March, we began to have emergency orders. And at first, those emergency orders were on a local level. You know, the individual cities and the individual counties. I don't know how that translates to your geographic structure, but so Tomsk is in what we would call it a county. What do you call it? Oblast?
It's well, oblast is more like a state.
Okay. There's something smaller between city and oblast?
There's I guess we would call it, what would we call it? I think region maybe.
Okay. So anyway, the emergency orders began to come first at the local level, then the next level up, and then finally the state stepped in and issued, our governor of our state issued an emergency order, and he said, this supersedes anything that you have done, you know, on any kind of local level. Your orders are now null and void, and you just follow this because we all need to be on the same page. So what was more applicable in southern Georgia, rural farming Georgia, was not so applicable in the northern urban Georgia, but we all had to follow it. So we were in a stay-at-home situation, especially people who were considered at risk. So my age group would be considered at risk, regardless of whatever physical condition we're in, whatever state of health we are. And we were more encouraged than mandated, more not ordered exactly, but encouraged strongly. And we didn't have, there were no police stopping you on the street saying, where are you going? You know, you look old, why are you out? You know, that kind of thing. So we were allowed to do essential things like go to the grocery. If you needed to repair something at home, you could go to the Home Depot we have, and those kinds of things, but it was limited to essential items. Non-essential things like hair salons, barbershops were closed. Restaurants for dining in were closed, but they could do takeout. Bowling alleys, tattoo parlors, you know, those were closed. You know, a lot of people thought tattoo parlors were essential, but no, they turned out not to be essential, you know. So we went through that stage, and then about a month ago now, our governor began to say we need to ease into opening, you know, but still be very careful. We highly recommend wearing masks when you're in public. And the philosophy there was you're wearing a mask to protect the other person, not so much yourself. Because frankly, the masks that we wear is like putting up a chain link fence to keep out mosquitoes.
Exactly.
The virus goes straight through it, you know. So anyway, but the thought was good, you know, it was good intent.
It's the thought that counts.
It is just reassuring to people. So we began to open up. So now we're at a point where we've gone back to dine-in restaurants. but they've taken out at least half their tables. They're down to about 50% capacity. Our retail stores like Home Depot, Kroger, are trying to control the number of people in the store at any one time. They have a lot of decals and tape and stuff on the floor showing what 2 meters looks like, 6 feet, what it looks like, just to remind people. Some grocery stores have one-way aisles, so you're not facing each other as you shop.
Right.
So a lot of variations in that. I think tattoo parlors may even be open now. So, you know,
people finally I can get tattoos.
Finally, I can get mine.
Right.
So, you know, we're going through that. And I guess Russia, from what I read, I try to look broadly on the internet to see what is China doing, what is Russia doing, you know, and realizing that that's regional too. But and this is a situation where the media makes more of it than it actually is. Media stays in a state of panic. If you're looking at numbers, if they throw up numbers for you, the number of cases, to compare Russia with Italy, if it's not a per capita number, if it's not taking into consideration how big Russia is compared to Italy, that's a meaningless number. You know?
Right.
Russia has more cases than Italy. Duh. Yeah. It has more people. So anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine, you know, that makes me laugh. So we're gradually easing out of that, but we are being cautious and watching for any rebound. If we start having a spike in cases, then we might have to, you know, be a little bit more careful. But so we have that. Our people in assisted living, Rob's mom, you know, is pretty much locked down, and Sheila's mother in Texas is in assisted living and pretty much locked down. And that's unfortunate, you know, because they miss the social. They miss the social time, even with each other in the assisted living home there. So we have that.
Right.
And
right. So
a lot of controversy. People feel that it's taking away their inalienable rights. You know, it's a violation of the Constitution, you know, civil liberties. It just runs the gamut. And the conspiracy theories that, you know, Bill Gates is doing this so he can make more money. I got a flash for you. Bill Gates doesn't need any more money.
Right.
Bill Gates is giving away money by the billions. So anyway, it's funny.
Well, it is. I mean, I still, I'm struggling to understand what's happening, because, I mean, I don't see anything. Whenever I look at the numbers, I don't see any. I don't understand why we're doing this because of these numbers. You know,
we didn't do it for the flu epidemic. You know, we didn't lock down, but from what it appears that the COVID virus is more, can be spread more easily. I don't know, but I'm still looking, because it seems like every day scientists are coming back and saying, well, we were wrong about that. We were wrong about that. We were wrong, you know. So what's the next thing they're going to be wrong about? I don't know.
Exactly. So we're very sorry. Y'all had to stay home. You didn't really need to do that, but
right.
You know, sorry.
Sorry your business went bankrupt because you couldn't have customers, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we got a lot of that. And, you know, the American politicians are always talking about ways of bailing us out and, you know, all that sort of thing. So this too will pass.
We're trying to get our politicians to bail us out.
There you go.
there's everybody says, hey, look at America, they're giving out money, and where's our money?
Well, our grandchildren are going to have to pay that money back, though, so it's not all that wonderful.
Right.
Our grandchildren are giving us a loan.
They
great-grandchildren. Sheila and I have 2 great-grandchildren now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
How'd that happen?
I know. I mean, and of course you can talk about that a lot more than I do, but than I can. But yeah, I look at my children, and I don't know where all that time went. You know.
I know. The days are long and the years are short.
Right. That's true. That is very true. Well, thanks very much, Tim.
Well, thank you. We rambled, but I guess it was good. Maybe your students got a clue about how we appreciate Russians, and we do. And you and I have had the opportunity to be in each other's homes and appreciate each other. So that takes it to a new level. And the young people that you teach in your English school, I hope they'll have the opportunity to travel, outside, even in Europe. As you know, I mean, you go, France? You go to France some, and even that, I mean, it just opens you up to possibilities.
True, and just helps broaden the horizons of our understanding of cultures and people and everything like that.
Well, any of your students who are online, I would encourage them to, study hard and learn idioms, learn, the vernacular things that are not strictly in the books. And however you do that, I know young Russians who watched a lot of American movies and they talk like Humphrey Bogart, but
Right.
Whatever works for you, try to expand that, and it will be a good resource.
Right.
And if you have friends who are not in school, not in the English school, talk to them, get them enrolled. They need to enjoy it too.
That is very, very true.
It looks like, Alex, looks like you guys have a lot of fun. There's a lot of fellowship, and you try to bring more to it than just a classroom.
Yeah, I always, what I try to do is have a conversation like this, have talk about something that actually, matters, actually that we actually think about, that worry about, or are happy about, and so yeah, that's how I try to do it, and I think most of my teachers are that way too. I think all of my teachers are that way too.
I think that's a good approach. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, good talking with you, Alex. Thank you for inviting me in, and we can do it again sometimes.
Yeah, thank you. That I really appreciate it, and I'll see you next time with more questions.
All right, до свидания.
Bye. Thanks, Tim.
That's one of my 40 words.
That's 2 of your 40 words.
Oh, okay, 2. Take care.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.